The United States men's national team advanced by the skin of their teeth in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup, coming from behind in extra time to tie Canada and win in penalty kicks. And, no one really wants to go to penalty kicks, but I think in this case it was good for the United States because we really, maybe not discovered, but it was reinforced what we have in goal. Very, very special shot stopper in Matt Turner. Smart, calculating. And he was the man of the hour in a very weird game. And I didn't want to record. I usually record these right after the game, but I didn't want to do it right afterwards because I wanted to go on social media and see what the tenor was, see what people were like. I think it's okay to be disappointed by this result. It was pretty hard to watch. And the ineffectiveness of a U.S. team, which hadn't played in a week, and I think that's part of it, the ineffectiveness of this team to look the way they did, albeit against the CONCACAF minnows. And I think to be expected, this isn't a great Canada team, although I think we learned we shouldn't underestimate John Herdman in Canada so much, even with this collection of players who played their best game against the best opponent by a long shot. And probably should be in the semifinals. Probably should be in the semifinals. There was a few moments I was thinking that. I'm sure you were thinking that, going, oh, God. When it first went into extra time, following the goal by Jacob Schaffelberg. What's got into this kid? Looked like Arjen Robben out there with that left foot. He's like, Schaffelberg is a guy, he has the talent, athletically gifted, but you've seen him in MLS, you're like, he's never going to get it. He's never going to figure it out. Just doesn't have that final piece. Very talented, but he showed some of that. Canada gave it a good run, and we could see there's no love lost between these two. There was a little hullabaloo in the tunnel coming out, which was very minor. I mean, sometimes if there's a hullabaloo, you want someone to get there's money's worth. I know that sounds crazy. People are like, get out, Matt Miazga's always in the mix. Lay one on. We might need Matt Miazga, although there's a long list of concerns we'll get, and there's a long list of things to be happy. At the end of the day, we should have all gone to bed happy. Because when we woke up, we're still there. Wednesday semifinal, the first game, as the United States will take on Panama, and then Jamaica will take on Mexico. Great Final Four, right? We didn't have Qatar. No offense, Qatar, but we didn't want a non-CONCACAF team. And in Jamaica and Panama, you have two resurgent clubs. We'll talk to them about them a little bit here on the Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. My preview with Luke, Gold Cup preview with Luke Wildman, the Women's World Cup send-off. We will have a podcast probably out on Thursday, recapping the semifinals of the Gold Cup. Didn't want to shoehorn one in here. I'm just a man. I could do so much. And like and subscribe us here. Thanks for everyone who's tuned in the last few weeks. Obviously, the numbers are up because we're talking about Nations League and here the Gold Cup. And even though it's a flawed tournament, people enjoy it. We had this great story with Guatemala. They are packing stadiums in there. It was great to see a lot of Guatemalan fans also pulling for the U.S. there at TQL Stadium. And we heard from BJ, the coach. I have to call him Beej. Beej! What's up, Beej? We heard from him, too, about how this is a venue that really will have some legs for the U.S. team, that they feel comfortable and feel that they have great support there. And so BJ Callahan certainly will reinforce that. It was great to see that. I like Cincinnati. We had that World Cup qualifier for Mexico. I was there, and you have this, so we're building that up. We're building the brand in a great stadium, which is a little bigger than most of your run-of-the-mill, hate to use that expression, but MLS goes at 2022. I think it's just 25. And that extra 3 in a game like that comes in very handy. So well done, Cincinnati. So let's get to the starting 11 for the United States. And it was Matt Turner in goal. DeJuan Jones, maybe the player of the game. Miles Robinson and Jalen Neal. So Callahan went with the young center back with Miazga and Long, who both saw action in this game at some point. Brian Reynolds at right back. Well, we'll talk about him in a bit. Yeah, I like when our young players have less learning experiences. And Reynolds had one, Neal had one, Robinson had one. Mihalovic, James Sands, Gianluca Busio in the midfield. And then Alex Zendejas, Julian Gressel, surprise starter there, came on his first start in the Gold Cup. And Jesus Ferreira coming off back-to-back hat tricks. We'll start with Ferreira because this is why I wanted to wait on the video. I don't know what to say anymore. People still attacking Jesus Ferreira. Maybe not attacking him, but the kind of player that he is in this role. First of all, He was really good. He didn't score a goal, but he was really good, and they put a lot on his shoulders, and he was nonstop for 120 minutes. Late in the game, he was taking corner kicks. There was this great moment in extra time where he took 3 straight corner kicks as they headed out. He put all 3 at the exact same spot at the near post. Remember, he took a big exhale. I think Ferreira's stock continues to rise after this. This was a game that the United States showed their will to advance. They didn't quit. They found a way on 2 occasions. And this is Jesus Ferreira was there for the duration, hit his penalty. I saw one tweet saying, can you imagine if Jesus Ferreira missed his penalty? Well, he didn't. Brandon Vasquez did. Jesus Ferreira didn't miss his penalty. He is showing you that he's hearing the noise, but he can handle this as well. We all should rally around Jesus Ferreira. He is not the starter for the national team. He is not the number 9 for the national team when it comes to the big games, but you have to see that he is pushing for a spot on a either 23 or 26 man roster. And I would even set it at 23. We have Ricardo Pepi, Alexi Laz got people upset because he put Ferreira ahead of Pepi, but why not? You want some diversity there in the way these guys play, and Ferreira can bring a lot. It's going to make him valuable because maybe he can back up Gio Reyna as a 10, maybe he can back up Balogun, Pepi, or both at the 9. You have Josh Sargent there. Josh Sargent just doesn't have the reps on the national team. I got to see a lot more before we just rubber stamp him in. But Haji Wright, Daryl Dike, Jordan Pefok, out of the picture for now. Don't even bring them up. It is Balogun, Pepi, this is my order, Ferreira, Sargent, Vasquez. Vasquez scoring the goal here, and you can see why. I mean, I've done some interviews with Brandon Vasquez. When you're up next to him, you realize what a monster he is. He's a big dude. Big height-wise, big width-wise, legs like just logs. Just a big dude, strong dude. Lovely man, by the way. He is going to have a very successful life, whatever he does. Hopefully it's scoring goals for the national team from this point forward. But if you want to start criticisms, it doesn't start... And it doesn't involve Jesus Ferreira. Another bright spot for him. I just don't know why we don't see it. And it's one of the questions was the crosses and how this team crosses a lot. And look, I would say that the traditional cross up there, everyone thinks that, none of these, Ferreira's like 5'8", 5'9". Vasquez is like 6'3". That's 6 inches, but some of these guys act like we're dealing with Andre the Giant heading balls. The crosses were poor. The midfield, the winger play was poor. That's where we start with the criticism. I thought Gressel, although not great, and he played a long time, was finding different ways to get a cross in low or diagonally. It's not just lob it over. We saw different kinds of crosses. And even back at the World Cup, and look, we shouldn't be a team that crosses, but we're not a team that builds out of that midfield and inverts things all that great. Crosses are an important part. Especially if you have good width play. Our wing play at the Gold Cup has been poor across the board. Zendejas has been the regular starter, and he has labored, made bad decisions. Just easy to say. He'll probably start the semifinal, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not, and I wouldn't complain if he's not. You've seen Gressel, you've seen Christian Roldan. Cade Cowell's been the difference, but he's still a kid, and he's going to struggle in these big spots. So the wing play has been not great, but good enough. And I just would give that even more responsibility to Jesus Ferreira because he's managed to get out wide on a few guys. Jesus Ferreira has been our best guy anywhere along that front line, and it's not even close. He's been the MVP of this tournament, to be perfectly honest. Although he had a lot of help in this game. So youth is an interesting topic because we have some young players. And I've always said this, experience will overcome talent and athleticism in spots like this. You saw the change. Jalen Neal made some mistakes, some head shaky ones, but I'm happy he has the goods. Jalen Neal's a teenager. He's going to be a special player. And this reps he's getting here is going to go a long way in his development. But we saw a kid get kind of caught in the bright lights, questionable back passing. Miles Robinson, who's not a kid, he's a young player, but he's had experience. 2 really questionable handballs. One he got away with on that first penalty when they shoved Busio, the Canadians. And then later in the game. But I'd see this. Now, Matt Miazga makes mistakes here. I know nobody likes Aaron Long, but he came in there. But Aaron Long has been as steady as anyone in the small amount of time he's played, and it was just 45 minutes. So I could imagine it goes back to Miazga and Long here. I doubt it. I would say Miles Robinson holds his spot. I would be surprised if Jalen Neal is in the starting 11 for a big semifinal. This is maybe one where he kind of sits and expects. It depends if it's Miazga or Long, but I think it's going to be one of those two. Again, this is not a shot at Neal, but the young players are learning, and if he gets the semifinal, it'd be another great learning experience. But I was a little worried about what I saw there. Brian Reynolds, a young player, worst game of his tournament, where he set a very high bar. And I'm fine, because I've been loving Brian Reynolds here. But again, you see a guy, and it's the decisions. Things are picking up. This is what we all talk about. Things are picking up, and you got to make a decision a lot quicker. You know, I ain't got time on that. Going back to this, was a very good Canadian challenge. They were up for it. Hats off to Canada, man. I'm giving them credit here, because we were poo-pooing on them. And they came up big with a really good performance here. I'm going to go over some topics. I don't want to get too far into the weeds here. But these are the things. Obviously, Ferreira. Obviously, the crossing. The poor wing play. Young players maybe observing a little bit here in the semifinals. The transition play where we got caught, certainly on the Schaffelberg, that can't happen. That was a jailbreak goal. So some mistakes there that certainly need to be alleviated. By the way, Jesus Ferreira got blamed for the Schaffelberg goal because he was involved. He made about, but of course it happens upfield, but that was his fault. And then, I mean, Matt Miazga made a howler there too. And it's, I'm glad this team went through this process, but there is some homework to be done. And you have the deeper roster, so maybe you can alleviate some things that way. You have some cover here. And maybe they should have brought, I mean, Mihalovic didn't play well. Oh, Busio. This is an interesting case, and I want to give the U.S. credit here because Gianluca Busio got lost in the shuffle because he went to the wrong club. Venezia have American owners. They wanted an American player with Italian ties. It made sense, very romantic, yada, yada, yada. It wasn't the right club, and it really affected him. But despite all that, BJ Callahan, and I'm sure Greg Berhalter and that, noticed a guy who they still felt could play a role. You know, they compared him as an American Andrea Pirlo. We saw that on Sunday night. You saw that. He was instrumental, scored the goal, was always available for his teammates. It was I'm not here to talk about the performance. I'm here to say about U.S. soccer not quitting on this kid. Because when he was selected, I was like, he's had a great tournament and he had a great game. So Gianluca Busio is an example of the U.S. not throwing the baby out with the bathwater because of a bad situation with his club. And hopefully this helps with his next club because you can see this kid's dripping in talent and he is still a kid. DeJuan Jones, I talked about the back line. DeJuan Jones has been locked, stock. A right-footed player crossing up. That ball he put for Brandon Vasquez was perfect. A perfect ball. DeJuan Jones is another example of a late bloomer. And we see a guy kind of coming into his own, going to college. He went to Michigan State, was an MLS draft pick, but figuring it out 22, 23, 24. We should not throw those guys away too because we're gonna miss. Clint Dempsey was one of those guys. A lot of guys that do that. DeJuan Jones is a keeper and could be the backup for Anthony Robinson. I feel a lot more comfortable saying that than I would have said it 3 weeks ago. This guy has had it, and he's a super athlete. Played a lot of football as well growing up. So I think we talked about all the personnel, right? I was going to go in minute by minute. We saw what happened. The subs, Cade Cowell coming in, Vasquez coming in for Mihalovic, Aaron Long, Jordan Morris coming in. I don't mind. I mean, I know Jordan Morris and Aaron Long, this is probably their last major tournament, I tell you that. But you use them. Guys, they didn't do much. I thought Long, he's a tough dude to break down. So I think you may not have seen it, but it was good. The penalties, we talked about what Matt Turner, I mean, there was a stat about how many penalties he's faced and how many he's saved. The percentage is astronomical. It's like in the 60th percentile. Penalty takers are going to be terrified to see him, and we saw that with the Canadians. He was beaten by Victoria in a penalty. He went right down the middle, and then, I mean, Stu Holden tweeted this, being the goalkeeper. Matt Turner held his ground and knocked the ball away when he tried to shoot it right down Route 1. I want to say something too. And I know I always pat myself on the back or toot my own horn. Toot, toot. Many years ago, I said Matt Turner was going to be this guy. I was laughed at. He's crazy. MLS player. Late bloomer. There is no question about how solid he is as our number one. Matt Turner is on a rocket ship. And the only question is, does he get enough playing time? Maybe he gets on loan somewhere else. I'd love to see it. But I will tell you, European teams are looking at this, and there is a line around the corner that want a guy like that. So you will be very excited to see him maybe take that next step. Matt Turner, fantastic. Busio, fantastic. DeJuan Jones, fantastic. Jesus Ferreira working his tail off. Semifinal. Mexico and Jamaica. The Jamaica and Panama, it could very easily be a Jamaica-Panama final in front of 2,000 people at SoFi Stadium. I'm just not taking a shot. I love these coaches. You know, you have Hal Grimson, the former Icelandic coach in charge of Jamaica, Jaime Hal Grimson, very talented. Feels like we haven't seen the best of them. Panama's hitting their spots. Coco Carrasquilla, I think, has been the best player in the tournament for anybody. The Panamanian midfielder who plays for the Houston Dynamo. And then Thomas Christensen. So we got some nice coaches in CONCACAF. You had it with Guatemala and other countries doing. You know, CONCACAF is not going to be a monster, but they got some good stories developing. I still think we see a USA-Mexico final. A lot of people are going to put some money on Panama based on this performance of the U.S. I believe the U.S. will get better, and they should make it through, in which will be a tight-fought matchup. Panama deserve to be here. Panama win their group. Panama made the Nations League. I mean, they're on a great trajectory. And while other Central American teams struggle, they have not. The Soccer OG covering all things U.S. men's national team, MLS, World Soccer. I got you covered. I watch everything. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. Like and subscribe us here. We appreciate the support. See you soon.